If you're looking to buy Apple's new Mac Studio, you have to choose between two models, the one with the M1 Max chip and the one with the M1 Ultra chip, each of them offering a lower-end binned and a higher-end unbinned version. We've already tested the top-of-the-line M1 Ultra Max Studio, as well as the lowest-end $2,000 M1 Max model. And now we have our final Mac Studio to test, which is the middle one, so the unbinned 32-core M1 Max that only costs $200 more over the base model. And there are three comparisons that I want to make here. The first one being against the 64-core M1 Ultra model. I'm curious to see if we get double the scaling with double the specs, and I'm also curious to see if that copper cooling system in the M1 Ultra would give us any better thermals. 2 versus the same spec 32-core M1 Max MacBook Pro to see if we get better performance from the Mac Studio with its improved cooling system. And 3 versus the 24-core base model to see if it is worth paying $200 more for the extra 8 GPU cores. Using our automated benchmarking tool, we're going to compare it against the M1 Ultra Mac Studio and then look at the results and compare it against the other machines. They both started our speed test with 15 tests to go through, from synthetic benchmarks to real-world usage. At the 15-minute mark, they are both on test number 4, which is Geekbench Compute. Fast forwarding to the 30-minute mark, we can see that they are both on test number 8, which is our 4K Final Cut rendering test, with the M1 Ultra being quite a bit ahead. Then, at the 1 hour mark, they're both on test number 10, which is our Final Cut 8K export, with the M1 Ultra progressing noticeably faster here. If we fast forward to just 1 hour and 30 minutes, the M1 Ultra is finally one test ahead, as it is at test number 11, our Logic Pro 10 test, compared to the M1 Max, which is still at the 8K export. At the 1 hour and 45-minute mark, the M1 Ultra is on test number 13, the Blender render, while the M1 Max is at test 12, XCode. The M1 Ultra then finished our speed test in 1 hour and 50 minutes compared to 2 hours and 6 minutes on the M1 Max Mac Studio. Just a 16-minute difference between the two, despite the M1 Ultra having double the CPU and GPU cores, as well as double the RAM. So now that we have our final time, let's look at our leaderboard and answer the 3 big questions that I had at the beginning of this video. The first one being how the 64-core M1 Ultra would compare to the 32-core M1 Max Mac Studio. And based on these times, there is only a 14% improvement instead of the 200%, which is what we should have gotten. And that is extremely disappointing. My second question was how the 32-core M1 Max Mac Studio would compare to the 32-core M1 Max 16-inch MacBook Pro. And looking at our results, the M1 Max Mac Studio was actually 25 seconds slower, which I can say that it is within the margin of error for such a long test. Meaning that we don't actually get any performance improvements on the Mac Studio coming from the same spec MacBook Pro, despite this being a desktop computer with more thermal headroom. And my third question was how the 32-core M1 Max Mac Studio would compare to the base 24-core model that retails for $200 less. And here we saw a difference of about 7 minutes, which again is quite minor. Percentage-wise, that is only a 6.5% improvement, which I would simply say is not worth spending $200 more. But maybe there's more to the story. Maybe in some of the tests, the M1 Ultra was significantly faster than the M1 Max variant, and then the other way around in some other tests. Or maybe it was running much cooler. So let's put each test side by side, bring up the metrics and our thermal camera, and look at the results. In Geekbench 5, we can see that the single-core performance was pretty much identical, but the multi-core was almost double on the M1 Ultra. However, Geekbench is only a burst benchmark, so it's not really the best example when it comes to stressing out these systems. So this is where Cinebench comes in, which fully maxes out a CPU to render the scene over and over for 10 minutes. And I was surprised by some of my findings here. At the 5-minute mark, the M1 Ultra CPU was actually at a noticeably higher temperature of 65 degrees compared to 59 on the M1 Max. And not only that, but the chassis temperature was also much higher if you look at our thermal cameras. So even though we have that much more advanced copper cooling system on the M1 Ultra, it still cannot maintain its temperatures below those of the M1 Max model. However, the fan speed was about the same, which was very interesting. Apple could release a software update to increase the fan speed, and bring the temperatures of the M1 Ultra model more in line with the M1 Max. The clock speeds were exactly the same for both the high performance cores as well as the low performance ones, and in terms of the power draw, the M1 Max was drawing close to 27 watts, while the M1 Ultra was drawing 57. This matches up with what Apple has shown us at the event. Looking at the actual results, as we do have double the cores, we do actually get double the performance here. In fact, even more than double, which is very impressive. So then why didn't we see a bigger difference at the end of our speed test? Well, let's take a look at the next tests to find out. Running GFXBench off screen, I noticed that the M1 Ultra's GPU frequency was very spiky rather than the more consistent clock speed that the M1 Max was getting. The temperatures on the GPU were once again higher on the M1 Ultra, and in terms of the power draw, the M1 Max's GPU was drawing 39 watts, while the M1 Ultra was drawing about 72 as its highest. Looking at the results, the M1 Max got 302 frames per second, while the M1 Ultra only got 473. That is only 56% higher as opposed to the 200%, which is what we should have gotten with double the GPU cores. So this is very disappointing. Now at the event, Apple did point to a maximum GPU power draw of 100 watts compared to the 72 watts that we were seeing as a maximum. So if Apple releases a software update to let the GPU draw its advertised power, we could indeed see better results. But even then, we would only see about a 100% faster total GPU performance as the highest, and definitely not the 200% that we were hoping. We also ran Geekbench Computes to see if the results would be similar, and yes, they were, with the M1 Ultra only scoring 43% more, so that is even worse than in GFXBench. I was also curious to see if we would get any differences in terms of the disk speed. We have 512 gigabytes on the M1 Max and 1 terabyte on the M1 Ultra. The write speed was surprisingly higher on the M1 Max, but the read speed was higher on the M1 Ultra. The read speed is what matters in day-to-day tasks, although 5 gigabytes per second is already insanely fast, so it's not like you are going to actually notice any differences between 5.2 and 5.5. So far, it seems like the CPU performance in benchmarks is almost double on the M1 Ultra. The GPU, however, is just around 40 to 50%, which is very underwhelming. So let's do some real-world tests and see how these machines perform. Starting off with Lightroom, we imported 228 images of various formats and resolutions up to 100 megapixels, and they both took just 7 seconds to import. Then we applied the same preset on all the images, and this took 51 seconds on the M1 Max compared to 49 on the M1 Ultra. However, when we exported these images into compressed JPEGs, that is when we saw a gigantic difference between the two. The M1 Max took 6 minutes and 27 seconds, while the M1 Ultra only took 2 minutes and 28 seconds. That is more than twice the speed on the M1 Ultra, which is what I was personally expecting to see. It looks like Lightroom is indeed taking full advantage of all of those extra cores, just like Cinebench was, and this is why we saw such a big difference. On top of this, the RAM was almost fully maxed out on both machines, which means that having more RAM does indeed make a difference too. So what about Photoshop? Here, we loaded up a 50 megapixel photo and applied 3 filters with some adjustments to each. This took 2 minutes and 7 seconds on the M1 Max compared to 2 minutes and 37 seconds on the M1 Ultra. So the M1 Ultra was actually slower. This is because Photoshop only seems to be using one single high-performance core cluster, and despite using double the amount of RAM on the M1 Ultra, it was slower. So yeah, Photoshop needs to get optimized for both of these machines, as it is clearly not taking advantage of the full hardware. So now let's take a look at the video editing tests, starting off with Final Cut 4K. Here we have a 15-minute 4K project full of titles, effects, and side-by-side clips. And although the playback was very smooth on both, once we got to our intro clip, which had like 20 or so side-by-side images with an animated background, the M1 Max dropped a few frames while the M1 Ultra did not. So if you have a very demanding 4K project, the M1 Ultra does seem to perform better here. In terms of the export time, the M1 Max took 9 minutes and 22 seconds, while the M1 Ultra took 8 minutes and 40 seconds. That is only 8% better on the M1 Ultra. We then tested a 6K project in Final Cut with H.265 footage, which did not have any of the 3 titles and effects of the 4K project. So this means that this is where we'll get to test those dedicated media engines, which the M1 Ultra has twice the number of. Playback was perfectly smooth on both, and in terms of the export times, the M1 Max took 17 minutes and 39 seconds, while the M1 Ultra took 17 minutes and 27 seconds, so just 11 seconds faster. This should have been a considerable difference thanks to the M1 Ultra having double the video encode and decode engines, but sadly, Final Cut is still yet to be updated to take advantage of these. And now we're testing an 8K project full of red raw clips, some even side by side, so this is our most demanding project yet. The playback is indeed a bit smoother on the M1 Ultra, especially on those side-by-side clips. Exporting this took a staggering 45 minutes on the M1 Max compared to 39 minutes and 55 seconds on the M1 Ultra, which is sadly only 13% less. So yeah, saving 6 minutes out of a 45-minute project is too little to make a difference. So for video editing right now, the M1 Ultra is just not worth getting. We then tested logic by exporting a project. I know that you would all love to see how many tracks these can each handle, but that is something that we cannot include at the moment in our benchmark, as it would affect the total time. The time it took to export each track into separate AIFF files was the same on both, at 1 minute and 7 seconds. In XCode, we created our very own custom project, which took 373 seconds to build on the M1 Max compared to 305 on the M1 Ultra. That is 22% faster on the Ultra, so if you're building a lot of projects daily, then the M1 Ultra could actually benefit you here. When it comes to Blender, we rendered the classroom scene using the Cycles CPU renderer. This took 11 minutes and 4 seconds on the M1 Max compared to 5 minutes and 18 seconds on the M1 Ultra. That is more than twice as fast, and just like in Cinebench, we did actually see higher temperatures on the M1 Ultra. However, the extra performance does indeed justify this. So if you're working with Blender, the M1 Ultra is actually a very big upgrade. Then we ran Geekbench a second time to see if these machines would throttle, as they have been running all of these tests for close to 2 hours now. And luckily, there was zero throttling here, with some of the numbers actually being higher than in the first run. And the same applies to GFXBench, where the M1 Ultra actually scored 2 frames per second higher than in the initial run. So in conclusion, should you get the M1 Ultra Max Studio over the 32-core M1 Max Studio? Well, even though we did not see a massive difference in the total completion time of our speed test, there were some pretty big differences in some of the apps that were utilizing all the CPU cores to their fullest, such as Lightroom and Blender and even XCode to some extent. So if you do work with such apps, then the M1 Ultra would benefit you quite a lot. However, if you are a video editor or you work in Photoshop or you do anything that only uses the GPU or just a single CPU core, then you won't really see a benefit at the moment with the M1 Ultra. The best way to see if your workflow would benefit from the M1 Ultra is to open up Activity Monitor and press Command 3, which will show you a list of all of your CPU cores. If you notice that they're all being maxed out by the app that you're working with, then the M1 Ultra will indeed give you a substantial performance improvement. This concludes our entire Max Studio testing. Definitely check out the previous speed test episodes and subscribe for more Leaks and Rumors videos coming next week on the iPhone 14 and a few other things as well. I'm Daniel, this is Zen of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Zen of Tech, signing out. Cheers.